Croeso i'r sianel Blaid Llwyd. Yes, it was delayed, but we can finally return to Hammond Manor and see what's going on in Password. I know I keep saying I will do the update for Tyson's stuff. I'm hoping to do that in the next couple of weeks or so, just to get us up to date before the next update with Tyson's route there. We'll just do a quick skim through of the scenes where things are different rather than the general routes. So don't worry, we'll get that done for you. But now we're with Dean, so let's see what's going on here as we reach the end. Day 22. Even as I was unconscious, it hurt. It hurt in a way I couldn't quite understand, but I could feel the lingering ache in my head all the same. I was no stranger to Thanatos' habits of putting me under. Why he was doing it still eluded me. Maybe he just enjoyed doing it. Maybe it had a greater purpose. All I knew for certain is that I wanted it to stop. When my eyes opened, I knew where I was immediately. It wasn't the first time I wasn't in control either. Just a passenger in my own body. I yawned, pulling out my phone. Damn. I flicked through my contacts and hovered over Roswell's name, before flicking over to Dean's and hitting dial. A few seconds later he picked up. Well, Dave, what's up, buddy? I missed my bus, I think. Oh, shoot. How did that happen? I don't know. I was napping, I think, but something wasn't adding up. I was sitting there, just missed my bus. If this was a dream, fine. This was a memory, then what was traumatic about this event that was making me remember? I hadn't been hit or something bad had happened, had it? So to answer my question, a screeching car in the distance caught my attention, and I stood suddenly. I could feel my fur stand on end as the car came speeding around the corner and down the street towards me. Dave, everything all right? How the car was moving was off. Aside from fast, it wasn't travelling in the straight line at all. Dave? Things went black just before the car crashed into the bus stop. I could feel my body tensing up in anticipation of the impact, but it never came. I could feel what was happening next before I could see it. The heat, the way the air felt heavy as I breathed in. It was night, though the raging fire in front of me made it light as day. In my hand was Thanatos, limp for some reason, though deep down I knew I could figure out why. Despite still being on the edge of the driveway, I was close enough that the heat of the fire was radiating off the house in waves. I was cold in another way, somewhere deep inside. Thanatos. Part of me was hoping he was still alive. Part of me was hoping, wondering if this was just some trick or dream within a dream. Why did you... I stood there just watching the fire for a bit, stunned and sick, sad and scared. Where were the others? Why was I outside? What had happened with Jack, Dominic or Memphis? Why was the house on fire? On top of that, why was I not wearing a shirt? Had I been sleeping? Just what had happened that led to this moment? These questions were going to go unanswered as once more things faded to black. My head still hurt, body aching as I felt myself begin to settle again, though this time it felt slightly more comfortable. As I opened my eyes, I found myself tucked into my bed. A light slap on my face confirmed I was awake properly now, and I carefully sat up to get an idea of what had happened. Not that there's anything to go off. I was in bed. Everything was as I left it. Someone must have brought me here after finding me passed out in the rec room. I checked my phone to see what the time was. I'd somehow slept the day away, and it was now morning again. With a groan, I rolled out of bed and wondered if there's a way to stop myself from sleeping so much. I threw on some pants and a shirt, forgoing my usual orange hoodie for the time being. Maybe it was the lingering thoughts of the fire that didn't make me feel cold, but I just needed to be moving. Maybe find Thanatos or even Roswell to get some answers. The house was quiet. What I could tell, I was the only one up. The thought of the fire was lingering on my mind, and I found my eyes looking around for anything that might be amiss. Did we have a fire extinguisher? Not that it'd help if the whole house went up. What about an escape route? Could we use the dinner bell? It seemed like the only time we'd used it was a novelty rather than anything consistent. Minutes ticked by as I wandered back and forth in thought. I hadn't even considered going to get coffee until a small amount of movement caught my eye. I looked over to the corridor leading towards the basement. Dave? Roswell? Immediately looked around for Thanatos, and I breathed out upon not seeing him, shaking my head. For a moment I thought, well, I thought what? Thanatos, after yesterday? Ah, that, right. I gave Roswell a look. It was good that he seemed better compared to the day before, but I wondered why. You feeling okay? Yeah, I'm feeling, well, better than I did yesterday, that's for sure. Do you know why? Oh, shy of bread rest. It would like to be something Oswin drugged me with. Said it'd take some time to kick in, but it should get me going. Wait, when did that happen? When? He seemed to think it over, scratching his chin. I guess it had been sometime after you find me in the rec room. After Thanatos knocked me out, you mean? After he knocked us both out. But you woke up sometime after that? Yeah, it was when he injected me with something. He really needs to stop doing that. I'm given how much better I'm feeling by comparison. I think I'd be willing to give him a pass on it. Grumbling, I shook my head. So, no Thanatos, no idea why he did what he did? Again, Roswell seemed to be lost in thought, a small frown forming the longer he didn't say anything. Roswell? Sorry, maybe. That's a short answer anyway. And the long answer? Do you remember much about what happened when you came to the rec room yesterday? I showed up, you had a medal and said... It was a trap, yeah. He sat down the stairs, chin cradled in his hand as he waited me to join him. Admittedly, I don't really remember how I got in the rec room, just that it was kind of in a daze. I remember running to Thanatos somewhere just outside my room though, and he still led me there. And the medal? That part I remember. He handed it over to me shortly after I collapsed in the beanbag. Alright, and the medal is... where now? In my room. When he handed it over, I remember him saying something like, now we'd have to wait for the hyena to show up. A few minutes later you did. You knew it was a trap just from that? You tell me, Dave. I don't think throwing your party upon your arrival was the plan. Yeah, you're probably right. I think the trap is going to be a literal sound trap, though. What's he get of knocking us both out, though? Well, I was out until this morning, but you were woken up. I couldn't tell you. Maybe it has been medicated was why I woke up. Not that I was awake for long before sleeping again. I want to take a page out of Tyson's book when I see him again. Thanatos needs to stop being a jerk and knocking people out. Catch him off guard near an open window, you might be able to enjoy a little bit of defenestration. Roswell, it's too early for long words. I mean, throw him out of the window. You know, I'd probably be fine with that, if only once. So what happens now? I don't think there's much to really talk about, is there, except... He turned to me with a wry smile, almost as if he knew what was going to be said before I did. Except what's happening later today with Dominic. Right. Well, I don't think there's much to talk about, is there? Sure there is. Oswin is going sure. Are you fine being the one to go with him? Being fine with it is relative. All things considered, it makes sense that I go. How I'm feeling now, minus the nerves, I could probably move a mountain. Even though it's dangerous. That's where the nerves are. I guess I could rely on being lucky and things are going to turn out okay, but... well... that's it? You're just going to hope you're lucky? What if something happens? Then we deal with it then? I don't think we're really able to plan around something going wrong out there. Or at least I'm not going to have many options once I'm out there. What of us back here? Yeah, Benson. Press everyone else to formulate a plan. Or an escape, potentially. I'd probably leave that to Benson to know what's best. Right. We know when it's happening, at least. No, just that it's going to be happening today at some point. Alright, well I should probably put some time aside to get a few things prepared just in case. I mind if I borrow your flashlight? Yeah, of course. You'll need it to get back if it's dark at all. Thanks. Which really only leaves one thing. Which is what? To wait, really. Got me mentally preparing myself, of course. Nothing else. Just waiting. Well, I could go for some coffee. Not to mention, well, I did also have a favour to ask. What's the favour? So, imagine that while I'm mentally preparing for the worst, I'm not going to want to be distracted. So to that end, I think Orlando might need some company today. Why Orlando? No issues with it, I guess. Just curious. Given his dad is on the mountain, I imagine a potential confrontation is doing wonders for his nerves. Right, I guess that makes sense. It'll be easy. Just take his mind off things with games or like until it's time. Once I leave with Oswin, it's going to get a little harder just with the waiting, I imagine. And you're going to spend all this time by yourself, preparing. Not all of it. I want to go talk to Tyson at some point. Maybe Sal. How come? I'm making a calculated gamble. If there are any problems, I trust those who will be able to help Benson the most. Not someone like Dean. Well, Dean is the backup. In case something goes wrong in there, he's the best one to try and lead a rescue mission. Not there before that, but in the worst case scenario, we need to be ready. I guess so. I wasn't sure I really believed him, but I think a lot of it was buried by my uncertainty of how the day was going to go. Just coffee. Let's do coffee and wait for the others. Oh, sounds good. Roswell and I made some coffee and sat in the dining room. He seemed to drink his down as there was nothing wrong on the horizon, while I sipped on mine and finished off only once it had gone cold. Slowly the others started to file in, quietly sitting down at the table. It was clear we were all troubled, likely about the same thing. It was clear when Roswell got up from the table and left, off to mentally prepare or whatever, and we all looked at one another once he was gone. So, today's the day? Yeah, sort of, I guess. And we get to go home? Assuming everything goes well with that deal, right? Seemed like Roswell was feeling better too. Well, that's what he said before everyone else got up. That he's feeling better anyway. Alright. How you feeling, by the way, Dave? Gave us a bit of a scare when you didn't come back yesterday. Same as the rest of you, I guess? Though, can someone fill in the blanks? What happened after I blacked out? Oh, well. When you didn't get back, we all went into the rec room to see what happened. Found your own Roswell passed out, and that's about it, really. Not entirely true. It's getting the part where Roswell had a medal with him. Virgo, I think? No Thanatos? It wasn't there as far as I remember. Well, there was someone else. Who? Oswin. Right, he showed up shortly after we did and checked you both over. Then, when he was convinced you were both fine, took Roswell away and put him in bed. They're putting you in bed to me. Oh, well, thanks for putting me somewhat comfortable, at least. Oh, strange. As if he knew that you two were unconscious, though. It's a shame we only heard about this after you got back downstairs. Something about him isn't adding up. Don't worry, I have questions that Benson's willing to answer later about just that. It's a shame you missed waffles and chicken, too. It's fine. Maybe we can have chicken and waffles tomorrow night, when we're home, or... yeah, whenever that happens. So I just have to wait? Sounds like it, yeah. I thought back to what Roswell said, the favour he asked. Hey, Orlando, how are you holding up given what's about to happen? What, me? As good as I can be. Which admittedly isn't all that good. Alright, well, let's go play some games or something. Try and keep our mind off things until it's time. Whenever that might be. Well, in our case, guess I better keep out for Dom, then. Unless you want him potentially busting the door down. I looked at the other two, knowing that Roswell was going to talk with them later. They seemed to follow suit in answering the question all the same, though. I gotta work out then. Something like just keep my body doing something. Not a bad idea. I was considering the pool. but perhaps staying indoors is still the right call. Nodding to myself, I figured this was for the best. If Roswell wanted to talk to them both, and them being in the same place was likely to make things easier. Ross decided to stick with Dean so he wasn't alone. We all split off. With the exception of Roswell, we each had a buddy with us, so we weren't alone. But being alone was the least of our troubles. I started to understand just how right Roswell was to ask the favour. Orlando, despite the controller in his hands and looking somewhat relaxed in the beanbag, was still trembling as he slowly played. Wasn't sure what to say or do in a situation like this, because all there was to do was wait. Hey, Dave? Yeah? Can you stop staring? It's kind of freaking me out. Oh, sorry. I was waiting for this whole thing to go down bothering you. Yeah, I spoke with Roswell before everyone got up, and it's just so surreal we're at this point. I'm surprised he's able to smile being put into danger like that. He's doing it for us, though. And maybe dying is helping him be brave, or reckless. How are you, though? Worried about so much. My friends, you especially. I fear I'm just not going to be able to do anything to help if anything happens with my dad. He reached over and squeezed my hand lightly, sighing. Dominic can't get here soon enough. I just want this all over. Even knowing that Roswell's going to be at risk. I can't be helped. No matter talking to him would change his mind either. I just hope that he'll be back sooner rather than later. You and me both. Minutes started to tick by, soon turning into hours. The two of us just pushing down the fact we were waiting for so long with nothing happening. No word from the others either. Eventually the waiting became too much and we wandered downstairs in need of refreshment. Anything? Well, not yet. Been watching, but yeah, nothing. Well, nothing from the front either. Do you think maybe he changed his mind? That the deal is off? Well, if that's the case, then we'd have seen someone by now, right? I guess you're right. Seen any of the others? Well, Roswell was wandering around before looking for Sal, but that was hours ago. And he never showed up again? Well, I've been outside, so if he returned from the basement, I didn't see him. How about you, Hoss? Same. I've been out the front, so similar situation. Should we go looking for any of them? If anything would have happened to them. Which almost certainly means something has, knowing our luck. Okay, now, don't go saying things like that. Tea? Anyone want some tea to take the edge off? I'll have some coffee. Same if you're putting a pot on. A tea for me, please. Alright, I'll be back. He wandered off, leaving the rest of us to linger in the foyer. So? I guess it's just back to waiting, right? What time is it anyway? Good question. Dean? Oh, about 5. Sun's already starting to set, so it'll be around then anyway. He really isn't coming, is he? As he's wanting to lead us through the dark forest. You don't think that's the point, do you? To make it difficult to return? A frustrated yell echoed from above us down through the foyer, quickly followed by the hurried stomps of someone coming downstairs. Where is he? Oswald had stopped about halfway down the stairs towards us, breathing heavy and bracing himself on the railing. Who? Oh, Thanatos! What did he do? Did something happen? He's gone again for answering Dean's question. The one between each of us told me we were all intending on following. Orlando detoured to go tell Hoss what had happened, whereas Dean and I were following as close behind Oswald as we could, only just catching him heading to Roswell's bedroom. As expected, Roswell was here, but how he looked was worrying. He's unconscious. Someone sedated him. He's out cold. Well, who? My assumption will be that either Thanatos is behind us, or knows for certain just what happened in this room. Wait, you didn't sedate him? I understand how you came to that conclusion, but no. Given I spent a good deal of effort getting to the point of being able to leave with me, putting him back under right before Dominic shows up doesn't make much sense now, does it? How do you know Dom is about to show up? I don't. At times suspicious as it is, I would have assumed that if he had shown up, he would have let someone know. Well, someone would have anyway. In light of such news, I can only assume he's yet to arrive. I approached carefully, looking at Roswell. He just seemed to be sleeping, as if nothing was wrong at all. My eyes travelled over the medal sitting on his bedside table. It was here, like you said, and I wandered over and picked it up. Ah yes, the Aries medal. Not Virgo. I know, who told you that? Orlando did, earlier today. I can understand the confusion, but I show you that one is Aries. Not your age picked it up from, truth be told, but it's found, that's only a good thing. But the symbol is a V, isn't it? And Dave, this is hardly the time. Can't you see the problem we have in front of us? I don't expect of either of us, Oswin. We know as much as you do, and between the three of us, you're the only one qualified to do anything about it. Oswin grumbled, shaking his head. There's nothing I can do. If anything, we're now faced with a very real problem should Dominic arrive. Well, that's all there is to it, right? You'll just have to pick someone else to go with you. Oswin's attention was locked on Roswell the moment Dean stopped talking, and he slowly nodded. Yes, I suppose I will. Dean looked briefly to me before he went back to Oswin, scratching his neck. Oh, I volunteer. Noted. Good, I'll get ready then. I never said yes. But who else would be willing to go? They'd be able to go. We need to find Thanatos. If he's behind this, then there's probably a reason. The reason why he didn't want Roswell going, if any. It didn't feel like he's forcing someone else specific to go instead, just that it wasn't him. Agreed, I'll take Roswell into bed before I go searching. I'll head back downstairs and let us know what's happened. Dean was barely out of the room, for I could hear him run to Horse and Orlando just outside. I heard an explanation later, and they wandered off quickly in search of relaying the news to Tyson and Sal, along with finding the rat. Dave. I looked over. Oswald was carefully picking Roswell up, shifting him in his arms before sliding him carefully into bed once the covers were pulled back. We should have a talk. I don't like the sound of that. It's nothing serious, just overdue. What's it about? Benson told me you're asking about whether or not Roswell and I were related again. Ah, right. Did he also tell you he's willing to answer whatever questions I had after you two had left? He did. And have a trade I'd like to offer you. You're going to ask me to go with you into the woods. Too obvious? It's a terrible idea is what it is. Dean's better suited to it. He said he's good at outdoor stuff. True, he'd make the better choice normally, but there's things that need to be said beyond the range at which a certain rat can listen in. Things about your father, things about Roswell and myself. Things just better coming from my mouth. As opposed to Benson's. Your choice is between me potentially lying to you on the way to me being held as collateral to get you all home safely, or half-truths from Benson. Pick your poison. So you'll tell me once we're on the way? I'll need some time to grab a few things beforehand, but yes. I don't imagine Dominic's going to mind too much as long as we're quiet and subtle about the finer points. There's no other option. You can't tell me now and instead treat like anyone else. This is the offer I give you. Either I tell you and only you, or I take someone else in there and we make the exchange as originally planned. This isn't fair. Life isn't fair. And the others, they're just going to let you get away with this? If you volunteer, I imagine others will fight against the suggestion, but I do believe I made it clear the decision at the end of the day remains with me. Something in me broke a little. I could have just said I didn't want to know, that I didn't need to know. But it hit me where it hurt most, bringing up my dad after knowing the two of them had talked. Okay, I hate this, but okay. Oh, trust me, I feel that once I imparted the knowledge to you, you'd know how to put it to its best use. Beyond just walking down the driveway now and risk missing Dominic, heading to the woods together is the only option. We headed downstairs together, but I was dazed, looking somewhere far off without acknowledging those around me. Oswin had split off from me at some point, presumably going to search for Thanatos, whereas as I figured I should be keeping a watch for when Dominic arrived. I wonder if I was getting done from everything happening, from all the worry and fear building up to where I just couldn't feel it anymore. It's a strange feeling, almost like being trapped. But trapped in a way is different to the times that Thanatos had put me under, different to the times I just wasn't sure what to do, different to anything else I'd felt before. But I was sure of one thing at the very least. I was giving up. I didn't feel like I had any control anyway, so why fight it? What things had I managed to figure out, the people I'd managed to save, was any of it my doing? Just give up, Dave. There's no point in worrying about it. I hear the back door click open and Sal wandered up to join me. I barely turned to acknowledge he was there, still lost within my head. We spoke anyway. 2 things. The first, are you alright? I'm fine. It was a lie and he knew it too. Given what he'd likely been told already, he just nodded and let it go. The second was that we found Thanatos. And did he? I don't know. He's not talking. At all? Just stating it's out of his hands now, that we're in uncharted territory for him. Oh. We've brought him into the dining room if you wanted to talk to him or ask anything of him. He talks to you most from what I understand. I get the impression he made this happen just so that what happens next will happen. He's forcing what's about to happen. Which is something bad. And there's nothing we can do. Thanatos said it already. It's out of his hands now, it's out of ours too. Oh, well, it's alright. I've gotten used to not knowing anything, Sal. Just look forward to being home soon. That's what I'm doing. He nodded slowly and headed back inside. I heard him hesitate going back inside. I was back to waiting, occasionally looking up in case Dominic had shown up. Not that I was alone long. Oswin breathed out in the evening air as he stepped out next to me. I caught the vague smile on his face and wondered how he was able to do it. Not fretting too much, are we? I don't know. I understand you'd be nervous, anxious, or any combination of emotions. Why are you smiling? I looked at him again briefly and noticed the telltale signs I recognised in my own face. He was scared. Smiling, but scared. What other choice do we have? We'll make our exchange, I'll stay, and you'll head back. Get your friends and get home. Me? Well... Do you think he'll... Well, it's possible, but I've made my peace. He chuckled, shaking his head and wiping his eyes without taking his glasses off. Benson is livid. And he's not going to stop you? He can't. This was my decision. Punishment or comeuppance for everything that's gone wrong during your stay here. What? I'll explain more when we're on our way. He stretched and gave me a once-over. You should go get your flashlight. It's only getting darker. Yeah, good idea. I went back and grabbed it, thinking I'd look around the room for anything that could have been important, but found nothing. My wait for when we were meant to head off was spent at the top of the stairs, looking down the foyer. I could hear the others talking about what to do with Thanatos, Benson's irritated voice amongst them. No doubt his mood was soured after Oswin had filled him in on what he decided was going to happen. Though, given the lack of attention I was getting, I could only assume the others hadn't been told of Oswin's decision. Eventually I stepped back outside, noticing Oswin lingering about as if just waiting for Dominic's arrival without bothering to prepare anything. But we weren't waiting long at all. From the shadows, Dominic emerged and started to make his way over to us. Oh, sorry I'm late. You never gave us a time when you're going to be arriving, did you? Oh, and forget the apology. We have a walk to get to. Yeah, I guess you're right. Wait. Dean stomped forward, emerging from the back door. Hey, what do you think you're doing? I'm going to the woods with Oswin. But why? I believe I made my stance on this clear, Dean. I'm the one that decides who accompanies me. Dean, it's all right. Well, it's not all right. This decision makes no sense at all. What if you get lost on your way back? I have my flashlight. Oh, who's coming with me? I want to get moving. It'll be myself and the hyena. Dean, go back inside. You can't tell me to do that. But I can. What? Please, I'll be back as soon as I can. It won't take too long, hopefully. You're serious? It's just... This is how it needs to be. Yeah. He breathed out, shaking his head. Then carefully leaned forward and kissed me on top of my head, giving me a gentle squeeze. Alright, just be safe. I'll try. I flashed him a smile, but neither of us believed it. We were both worried, and in lieu of standing there all night, I turned back to Dominic. Let's get going. I chose not to look back. I had to keep looking forward, otherwise the pit in my stomach was going to make me throw up. Or maybe not that, but instead be unable to move. Dominic led the way forward, Oswin beside me as we followed close behind. My flashlight for the time being was unneeded. We were quickly losing any light coming from the mansion. As I stumbled, Oswin reached out and kept me upright, seemingly distracted. Dominic, you don't mind if we fill the silence with some chatting, do you? Dom didn't stop, but seemed to wave Oswin off with a grunt. Oswin looked across to me, his voice dropping in volume. Well, we're out here now. We're free to talk. About? I assumed you had questions. I assumed you had answers, or if not answers, things you wanted to tell me yourself. That is true, yes. He rummaged in his coat pocket and pulled out an envelope. Is that the same one from your lab? Yes, though, given the circumstances, I'm going to give it to you now. He offered it out and I took it, unsure of what to do with it. Could have just given me this back at the house. Back then I assumed I was going to be giving it to someone else. Roswell, you mean? Yes, Roswell. It's a photo, right? Of what? I'd ask you to see herself, but only once you're back in the mansion. Why? Aside from it being dark, I feel this might be something worth having. A safe space to properly digest what's in that picture. It's not something gross, is it? I wouldn't say so, no. But given we're meant to be following behind Dominic to wherever he's taken us, now isn't the best time. But now put it in your pocket if it'll fit. I did so, and hurried on to keep what distance I had once had from Dom consistent. Alright, so start talking about my dad. I suppose I should start with a question. Did Thanatos ever tell you what David saw? You did. It was a shoot-in. Alright, when I told you why Carol was here. Dad wanted to bring Memphis in, but also save my life. A sentiment, as you know, couldn't be accomplished. He chose you over taking down one of the most dangerous men I know of, anyway. But why? A father, a decent one at least, will do anything for his son. One that is not so great might choose differently. So what, I still had to suffer because Dad wasn't around anymore. Even now I feel like, sometimes, that you should have died? Not exactly. Closer to wanting to die. Or at least that's how it was until a week or so ago. Oswin grunted, but let me continue. Things are different now. I feel not entirely better, but a little bit. I want to live. It's hard, but I think that's what Dad would have wanted. I'd say so. What about you? What about me? Penn said he'd always wanted to be a dad, but life said otherwise. How did he now? Well, yeah, said that's why he interacted the way he did with Roswell. Yes, I suppose that's not entirely inaccurate. So, are you related or what? Oswin breathed out through his nose, shaking his head. The photo explains that better. How could a photo explain that better? I'm just asking you directly. Well, answer the question. All right. Yes, we're related. So, like an uncle? That's a close enough description. That wasn't a yes. If you're not an uncle, then what? Uncle is sufficient, though. Frankly, I don't feel like family. But rarely, very rarely does that boy make me feel good. Good. Just good. I wouldn't go putting a label on it like love or some such, but I do care for the boy. In a way I don't really know how or why. Maybe it is love after all. And Roswell knows? I wouldn't ask him to assume we're related, though I haven't explicitly told him that we share a family tree. Which means you two had met before this vacation started. That's right. But you barely leave the house. Also correct. Roswell has been to the mansion before. Yes. I continued walking alongside Oswin, the thoughts swimming in my head, thoughts that kept circling back around to wanting to talk to Roswell again, to get his side of the story. Why hide any of this? Why not say anything sooner? Why lie about it? Oh, don't think too hard on it, Dave. Because? There's not much to really digest. Everything I told you doesn't affect much now anyway. So I go back to the mansion. What do you want me to do? Pardon? I don't want anything from you aside from getting off this mountain. Then what's significant about the letter? I wrote a message on the back. A message for Roswell. And you want me to make sure he reads it? You can read it too, just... It's important that he gets the message as well. Sure, I can do that. Again we continued to walk, silent, stretching out, with Dominic occasionally looking over his shoulder as to make sure he was still following. It was hard to make out his fur in the dark, the only thing helping being his tank top. Plus my flashlight, though the darkness felt so oppressive at times I wasn't sure it was working. Hey, Dave. I almost jumped when he said my name after so long without saying anything. Oh, what? I'm sorry. For what? For you getting wrapped up in things. If I'd been a better man, a stronger man, then perhaps I could have thought of a way your father might still be with us, and you wouldn't be on this mountain. You can't change the past. Don't worry about it. Perhaps not, though I still wonder how much Thanatos has probably orchestrated everything that's happened. I almost stopped walking to look at him, but followed after when he didn't break stride. What do you mean? Well, given Memphis keeps his list of associates either flagrantly out in the open or hidden somewhere where no one would know to look, getting anything of value information-wise would be difficult. That makes sense, but doesn't answer the question. What I mean is that your father only arrived on this mountain because I called. The time you pointed out that I hadn't done business with Memphis, and while I'd spoken to him, there was no way the police would know that. But why? To take down Memphis? Because Thanatos said I should. And you listened. When a machine with multi-universal awareness suggests you do something because it'd be beneficial, you typically listen. I guess, but what if he was lying? I imagine if that were the case, you'd be dead. Or perhaps you never would have come to the mansion, or I'd have tried applying for something to let me practice medicine again. Really? After what happened with the trial? It would have been a long shot, but I do thoroughly enjoy being a chemist. Enough to try, to leave the mansion? There will be a time I'll have to leave the mansion eventually, Dave. I do not intend on dying here. I would hope no one would. Right. We're getting close. It had been the first time Dom had spoken since we left. I was only then conscious of how sore my feet were from the walk. Just how long it had been going for anyway. Nothing else was said until we hit a point where a soft light was lingering somewhere between the trees, and eventually we'd arrived. It was a cabin, or given how run down it was, probably closer to a shack. Still, Dom led the way up to the front door and ushered us inside. I entered first and froze in place upon seeing who was in the room. I only moved when Oswin eased me aside so he could enter as well. Dominic stepped in behind us both and closed the door behind him. Well, look who the cat dragged in. Or Bear. Let's go with Bear. Jack's attention shifted immediately over to Dom. He seemed to light up, throwing his arms up quickly in a greeting. Dom, you're back. It's good to see you. Jack went to get closer, but Dom quickly shook his head, looking toward the third person in the room. We all looked over the figure hunched over a table, facing away from us. He seemed to be playing cards or something, but it's hard to really tell. I was dropping one of these off or heading out again. Well, can I come this time at least? I'm bored out of my skull here. Oh, take it up with the boss. He can go. Just be quick about it. The gravelly voice came from the dragon as he rose from the table. I remember the look he gave me as he caught a glance of us over his shoulder. It was fleeting, but oppressive all the same. Good to see you again, Oswin. There was a low chuckle that came out of his mouth before he turned around fully and came closer. Dominic and Jack seemed to back off, looking anywhere but him as he came to stand in the middle of the room to stare at us. Who was it, kid? I went to answer, but he stepped in quickly, grabbed me by the jaw and looked me over. Yeah, that kid that came to my house that one time. He let me go with a rough shove backwards into Oswin, who braced my fall and caught me by my shoulders.
Well, all right, I see how it is. You want to know how we got on the mountain? Consider it a trade, then.
He gestured for Dom to come forward and whispered something into his ear, getting a reaction.
Oh, but boss.
Need me to spell it out? Just get it done.
Dominic's eyes went to me before he turned to Oswin.
Well, let's get going.
In a huff, Dominic left, keeping the door open, but seemingly unimpressed. So I went to move, a meaty hand landed on my shoulder and gripped tight.
Now where do you think you're going, kid?
Huh? I'm gonna go find out where... I started to tremble, piecing it together. I'd hoped that I'd just misunderstood. I imagined things. But Dominic had been talking to Oswin and not me.
That wasn't the deal. So I didn't offer the boys collateral. He can't offer you anything anyway. See, that's where you're wrong. You can just climb up the moment the kids get off the mountain. You can just as happily not tell us anything and just to get nothing out of this deal.
His grip tightened more and I gasped slightly, tensing up to try not to give away how much he was hurting.
Taking the kid, though? Yeah, I think you'd be more than willing to be helpful once you told the rest how to get home. Then we can really start discussing this as adults. But...
He was struggling and I was struggling too. If Roswell had come in my place, would he be right where I was standing instead? Would he be held hostage for the sake of the rest of us?
So hurry along before Dominic leaves without you. Then head back on home, tell the kids' friends where they can get off the mountain, then come back here. And if you're quick enough, there might be some of this hyena left.
Oswin looked at me, torn between apologetic and angry, returned quickly, heading for the door.
I'll be back.
As the door closed behind him, things went quiet. I was left alone with Memphis.
Well, sit down.
I didn't move. He grabbed me by the throat and lazily threw me towards one of the chairs. Even though it was clear he hadn't put his full strength into it, my neck throbbed and I would have been momentarily crushed. Memphis dropped down to his chair and started shuffling the cards up, watching me carefully as I slowly lowered myself in the other chair. Jack, meanwhile, remained where he was after Memphis had started speaking.
Jack, what are you standing around for?
He took my seat.
Then go find another.
There isn't one.
And kick the kid out and I'll deal us up. What?
I sank in my chair, realizing I shouldn't have said anything.
Go on, haven't got all day.
What are you going to do with me?
Me? Nothing. Jack here, on the other hand. Well, I figure you'll be great friends.
My blood ran cold as Jack wandered around to stand behind me, placing his hands slowly on my shoulders.
Oh, don't you worry, boss. We've met before. This the kid you ran into by the mill?
Yep, this is him.
The one you let get away?
I was just playing around, boss. I didn't hurt him then.
Well, you should have.
That could be arranged.
Whatever you do, just keep it down. I reckon Oswin's going to drag his feet getting back here.
Do we think so? Seems it's not like you switching things up on him.
Do I look like I care?
It works for me. I was then half shoved out of the chair and Jack sat down as Memphis started to deal out some cards. My eyes went to the door, wondering if I should run for it. Chances are Dominic and Oswin were long gone. If I could slip by, I might escape. Slowly I started to edge towards the door. I got a couple of steps there before I heard a distinct click.
Don't even think about it.
Memphis had a gun pointed at me. Something looked far too large to be comfortable in one hand. Didn't seem to be bothered in the slightest. Carefully I raised my hands and backed away from the door, staring at the barrel of the gun as it was trained on me.
Jack, take him to the other room.
Where we sleep?
Nah, the other room.
Jack was beside me in a flash and started walking us across the hallway. There were only two doors. One door was left ajar, and what I saw there were beds. The other door was closed, until Jack kicked it open and threw me forward so I landed inside on my knees. It was cold and dusty. I could feel a draft coming in from somewhere. Above me, hanging from the ceiling, were hooks. Some broken, others that looked cruel and sharp. What a pain in the ass. Tom gets to have all the fun. Jack had me back up and pushed me into the corner, right before knocking me back down again. Here's the deal. You sit there, keep quiet, and just wait. You're not going to hurt me.
Oh, I can rough you up some if you really want. Maybe pick up where we left off.
He kicked me lightly when I didn't respond, shaking his head.
I can't go have any fun without Dom saying it's fine. Oh, stupid deal. You chase one hyena for fun, the boss grounds you.
You never had to do that, you know.
But I wanted to, Dave. Now here's how this is going to work. You're going to sit right there in the corner and keep quiet. But given you just tried running away, how about we do something about that?
On catching sight of the knife he had tucked away, I froze, only realizing what he'd done once he stepped away again. My ankle had been chained to the wall, a lock keeping the manacle closed.
Now you sit tight and don't make a sound, Dave. Otherwise, I don't think the boss is going to like coming in here to keep you quiet himself.
With a wave, Jack left the room and closed the door behind him. I could hear him wander away, then the muffled sounds of him talking with Memphis about something. I tried not to waste the effort by listening in. Only because the sight of the hooks instead had my attention. I didn't like this place. It was giving me this awful feeling, this dark feeling, and subconsciously I felt my hand go to my chin. Trembling in the cold, I tried to ball up in order to keep warm. Yelling for help wasn't going to help because there's no one around. If anything, I was in more danger if I said a word. So I started to cry, quietly, cold and scared, worried for what was about to happen. It was all I had left. Oh. After a few minutes to myself, I remembered the envelope in my pocket. With nothing else to do, I pulled it out and weighed it in my hands. An envelope from Oswin, meant for Roswell and now in my hands. After a few more seconds, I carefully opened it, reaching in and looking at the photo. I wasn't sure what I was looking at first. It could have been the dark or any combination of things distracting me, but it was clear as day. This was a photo of Roswell when he was very young. The woman next to him would no doubt be his mother. But why was she so familiar? Who? I thought back to what Oswin had said and started to connect the dots. If he's related to Roswell somehow, then one of the people in his picture had to be related to him, right? One of Roswell's parents. The woman was his mother based on context, and it'd be Florencia. It had to be. Then came the question of the father. Maybe this woman wasn't Florencia, instead the father was going to be Oswin's brother? Didn't understand. This was a rabbit, or a hare? I couldn't tell the difference anymore. Either way, this wasn't Roswell's dad. Or at least, it couldn't be. Roswell wasn't half rabbit. You couldn't have half species. Not like that, anyway. Carefully, I looked at the man's features. He looked like a magician, or maybe it's just the fancy cut of his coat. His white fur did remind me of the Easter Bunny, though. Oswin said it'd be fine if I read the note, as long as Roswell got it too. I wasn't sure if the rules still apply, given the assumption was that I'd be the one getting back. Still, what harm could it be? The message was simple and to the point. I figured there would have been something more, something profound maybe, just not this. I read the words again, finding myself smirking slightly. They were nice words, words I was looking forward to hearing again myself. I tucked the photo back into my pocket and went back to waiting. So I waited and waited. I heard Dominic come back and someone else leave. I could hear hushed voices between those still here, but nothing else. No one came to check on me. That didn't make the call any easier. I huddled up in the corner and just waited. Someone would come for me. Someone would find me. Eventually. So if you wonder what happens next, well, you could always go on to Grizzy's Patreon and support the VN. You can get early access to the next update. Or wait, probably less than a month at this point. I will try and get the next update as soon as I can, which is, since it comes on the 15th in Australia, it's the 14th in the evening by the time I can get hold of it. So maybe 14th of September, 15th of September. I'll try and get the video up and you can find out what's going to happen next. But next on the channel is going to be Remember the Flowers. We're going back there and seeing what's going on. And next week there'll be more from Beyond the Harbour R. That just came out recently. So we'll be running back to Harborton and seeing what's happening there. And the weekend after that, I actually don't know yet. I haven't planned that far ahead. we'll see what happens. But it'll be September then as well. The year is going on. Before I wrap up, as always, thanks to all my donors on Ko-fi and Patreon. All the links are in the description. If you feel like giving money, it's very much appreciated. But don't worry if you can't. And my top patrons are Burnt Toast, Kartek, Kobus Visser, Besuksu, Larkuskitten, Bastion, Brian Hall, Gunnar Muller, Tiger Cub, Ida Corval, Anubis Silverwind, Dissonance, Spiderling, Kopi, Sindri Dragowolf, Marcus, Evan King, Monolay, Exact, Dumbistachio, and Grizz, who is responsible for Password. So he's the reason we're all here today watching this. So we'll have more on the weekend. Until then, thanks for watching and bye for now.